In the late 1800s, a small group of surveyors moved into a barely mapped river branch deep inside South America. They expected nothing more than heavy jungle and the usual slog of river travel. But the farther they pushed upstream, the more the world around them seemed to fold inward. Birds disappeared, the air turned strangely cool, and then they found tracks, prints far too large for anything they knew. By the time they understood what kind of basin they were drifting toward, something in it was already watching. I first learned of that place from a trader in a border town called Darren, a man with one damaged ear who kept glancing behind himself as he talked. He told me there was a cut in the forest far upriver where the land rose like a wall and the air stayed cold even at midday. He called it the Green Hollow. He never explained why he went there, only that he had seen tracks no tapir could make and too deep for any wild cattle. He sketched them right on the table, 3 long toes, a heel shaped almost like the bow of a canoe, and a mark behind it as if some claw had dragged through the mud. I was 27 then, working as a hired clerk for an expedition led by Captain Aurelio Dane, a Brazilian-born officer tasked with charting feeder rivers and locating stands of rubber for future use. We weren't a grand team: 8 men, 2 long canoes, a month of dried rations, a trunk of trade items, and a bundle of documents the captain protected more carefully than his own skin. Our only local guide was a quiet man named Aru, who spoke Portuguese in short pieces and watched the river like it might rise up and swallow him whole. He came from a community along the lower Cheta River and only agreed to join us for a musket, a salt block, and a promise we wouldn't force him past places his elders marked as forbidden. Captain Dane wasn't cruel, but he carried his authority like a blade. Narrow face, clipped beard, and a habit of talking to people like he was granting them permission to hear him. Still, he knew the rivers, and he paid when he said he would. Traveling with him was Brother Tomas, a Dominican who said he hoped to visit secluded missions. He carried a worn Bible, a box of medical tools, and a voice steady enough to calm even rough men without ever raising it. We had 2 rubber cutters from Centara, Rui and Mateos, both lean, loud types who joked about fevers until fevers found them. There was Lauro, the cartographer, with ink-stained fingers and a cough he couldn't shake. Bentov handled cooking and the boats. He'd spent half his life on water and claimed he could smell a storm long before clouds began forming. And then there was me, Jonas Farah, clerk by skill, rifleman when needed, and the one responsible for keeping the daybook and counting every supply. We shoved off at first light during the season when the river started to drop. The banks were still soft, but pale sandbars were beginning to show in the bends. The forest pressed close on both sides, packed with vines and broad leaves, and the air stayed wet enough to make every shirt cling. We paddled in shifts, keeping to the middle channel when possible, pulling into shade at noon to let the worst heat drift past. At night, we dragged the canoes onto a low beach or a fallen trunk, strung hammocks between trees, and lit a small fire that smoked more than it burned. The captain wanted speed, but he also knew men who collapsed on the river didn't get far. For the first week, nothing felt different from other Amazon routes. Clouds of mosquitoes thick enough to make evening breathing difficult. Lines of ants that found any crumb within seconds. A black caiman sliding past one night, its eyes catching the firelight like wet stones. We traded at 2 small settlements. In the second, the elder gave us smoked fish and whispered something to Aru. I caught my name and a word in their tongue that matched hollow. Aru kept his face calm, but later, when we were alone, he murmured, "Old path, bad place, not for walking." Captain Dane asked what he meant. Aru only shook his head. Grandfather speak, river quiet, there, forest quiet, then loud. That was all he gave. On the 9th day, we turned into a narrower offshoot the captain had marked from an old map.
The water slowed, trees leaning over it until the river felt like a tunnel carved from shadow. The birds thinned out. Even the insects sounded distant, like someone had closed a door on the world. Bento said the air felt wrong. He said it without any humor, rubbing his arms as though chilled. The river split into false channels and dead ends, forcing us to backtrack twice. Aru picked our path by clues I couldn't see. A bend, a drift of foam, a scarred tree struck by lightning years earlier. He never hesitated, but the tension in his shoulders never eased. That afternoon, Loro called from the front canoe and pointed at the bank. At first, all I saw was mud. Then I understood why his voice had gone thin. Footprints, huge ones, not fresh, but unmistakable. Each longer than my forearm, pressed deep enough that water pooled inside. 3 wide toes ending in rounded tips. No claw marks like a jaguar, no dragging like a man hauling weight. The stride between them was impossibly long. Rui stepped out, sank to his ankle, and cursed as he measured the print with his hands. "Man on stilts," he joked weakly. No one laughed. Brother Thomas studied the edges. He said, "Not a tapir, not a man." He looked at Aru. "Your people know this animal?" Aru stared past the tracks. He said, "It stays in the forest behind them. We do not hunt it." Captain Dane wiped mud off his boots. "There are creatures here no scholar has named. That's why we came." He sounded pleased, the way he did when the river favored us. "We keep moving." We camped early on a raised strip of ground. The trees there were tall, few low branches, good for hammocks, but strangely exposed. No frogs called after sundown, no night chorus at all. Even the river slid by without its usual chatter. I set my pen down twice because the quiet felt like a hand pressing on my chest. After we ate, Mateos pulled out his rosary and prayed for safe passage. Rui teased him, but even he didn't have much life in his voice. Loro sat with his map untouched. Bento kept walking to the river and returning without speaking. The captain wrote in his log by lantern light, lips moving silently. Around midnight, I woke to a low call across the water, something like a bull trying to bellow with a throat full of mud. I held my breath. It came again, farther away, followed by a brief crashing through brush, then complete stillness. In the morning, we found a tree at the edge of camp pushed halfway over, its roots torn loose, bark scraped with long, uneven gouges as if something heavy had swung against it. Captain Dane said wind must have weakened it. Bento pointed to the clear sky. No one argued. We pushed on. The tributary narrowed further until pale stones were visible under the brown surface. We stepped out and dragged the canoes where needed. The forest changed, undergrowth thinning, ground rising. We passed stands of trees spaced so evenly they looked planted. The air cooled just enough to notice. Aru touched a necklace of seeds at his throat and scanned the trees constantly. Near midday, the river widened into a still pool. The opposite bank rose steep and unbroken, a wall of green. The water smelled metallic and old. The captain signaled us to land. He said, "We're near the basin." Aru didn't move. He stayed seated, gripping the canoe. "Not basin," he said quietly. "Mouth." "Mouth of what?" the captain asked. Aru shook his head. "Big one." No one spoke after that. We unloaded in silence. Even Rui didn't crack a joke. I thought again of the trader in Darren, how he kept looking behind himself. I wish I had asked more than I did. We found a place where the bank could be climbed. The mud was mixed with disturbed leaves, like something heavy had passed often. The slope rose steadily, roots crossing it like ribs. We carried what we needed for 2 days: rifles, food, rope, instruments, my notebook, and canvas for shelter. Bento stayed with the canoes. He didn't ask to join. He said, "I'll keep the boats ready," was all he said. The captain chose the team without asking. Him, me, Loro, Rui, Mateos, Brother Thomas, and finally Aru, who hesitated long enough that I thought he would refuse. Then he stepped forward. He said, "We walk fast. We do not sleep inside." As we climbed, the air shifted. The smell of rot faded, replaced by a dry scent like old stone. The forest grew quieter still. Even the tiny rustles of lizards and falling seeds seemed missing. Our boots thudded softly on the leaf bed. I heard my own breath, the creak of pack straps. Nothing else. Far behind us, the river faded to a dull murmur. We reached a shelf where the ground leveled. Ahead, the land dipped gently, and the trees opened into a broad hollow. Sunlight fell through wide gaps.
The air carried a muted half-light, almost like the sky sat farther away than it had any right to. Ferns rose in waist-high swells across the ground, and here and there stood tall trunks, stripped clean of branches for long stretches before spreading into crowns far above us. At the center of the hollow lay a perfectly round pool, still and dark even though sunlight reached it. In another country, a place like this might have been called sacred. Here, it felt set apart for a reason no one wanted to name. I stopped without realizing it. Rui bumped into my back and muttered a curse. His voice echoed strangely, thin, twisted, not quite honest. "There," the captain said quietly, "that's worth the march." He stepped forward, but Lou grabbed his arm. "Look at the ground," the mapmaker said. His cough had vanished. His voice was tight and clear. "It's all tracks." Once I saw them, I couldn't stop seeing them. The ferns were crushed where something had walked to the pool and back again over and over. The prints matched the ones we'd seen on the riverbank, only far more of them. Some overlapped, some cut across others. The earth was pressed down not just near the water, but along faint paths circling the hollow and slipping into the trees. "Many," Matthias murmured. Sweat slid down his face, even though the air felt cooler up here. "Not just one," Rui said. "So they come to drink. Every beast does. Let's take our notes and get out." His tone was bold, but he held his musket with both hands. Brother Thomas crouched by one of the impressions, careful not to step inside it. He traced the edge with a finger hovering just above the dirt. "No one's going to believe this back home," he said. "They'll call it a trick or say we lost our minds." "They'll believe my maps," Lou answered. "Paper always wins over voices." He looked around slowly. "If I live long enough to draw it." The captain nodded toward me. "Write exactly what you see. No more, no less. If we make it back, this could get us backing for a full expedition, maybe even a real road." My fingers felt stiff as I opened my notebook and began writing measurements and patterns. While I worked, I kept thinking we were standing in the heart of something we didn't understand, marking it with scratches as if that gave us any right to it. I forced the thought aside. I had a job. We skirted the hollow's edge instead of crossing it. The captain wanted to know where the tracks led. They slipped between two stone outcrops half buried in roots. Beyond that, the trees thickened again, but the ground told a clear story. Flattened plants, bent branches, disturbed earth marking a path something huge used often, always in the same direction. "It has a den," Rui said, whispering. "Everything that eats has a den." He kept glancing back, counting the steps between us and the river. "What do your people call this place?" Brother Thomas asked softly as we walked. It took a moment before he knew I answered. "Old mothers say there's a path in the forest where the ground remembers before. Sometimes it opens, sometimes it closes. When it opens, big ones walk. When it closes, big ones sleep and dream." "That's not a name," the captain said. "It's all they say," Yua replied. "And these big ones," the priest asked gently, "are they animals, spirits, or something else?"
"If they are spirits," Ewa said, eyes on the path, "they leave heavy feet." We kept moving. The trail led us gradually downhill. The air grew cooler and beads of water clung to the moss on exposed rock. A tightness settled in my chest that had nothing to do with the climb. It reminded me of wandering too far into mangroves as a kid and realizing every direction looked wrong. I found the first carcass near a low ridge, half hidden under fronds. It had been a capybara once, a large one. Now half its torso was gone. The remaining hide hung in torn shreds. Bones jutted at odd angles. The ribs that remained had been snapped inward, not cut or gnawed like jaguar kills. The spine was bent so sharply that it made my back ache to see it. Flies swarmed as we approached. The smell struck like heat. Matthias gagged. Rui covered his face with a sleeve. Brother Thomas crossed himself out of reflex. "Jaw too wide," he murmured. "No cat does that." "Don't touch it," Lou warned. Nobody argued. He noted its location and the drag marks leading to it. Whatever killed it had hauled it there in one pull. The ground around it was churned into a mess, but a few prints remained clear. One of them sat squarely over the capybara's head, dwarfing it. "We've seen enough," Rui said. "Something huge hunts here. The maps will show the hollow." We turned back. The captain's jaw tightened. "We haven't seen it. If we're going to convince anyone this is more than a ghost story, we need more than dead animals and footprints." He pointed ahead. "We go to the next rise. Then we decide." "Maps won't matter if men die," Ewa said. It was the sharpest thing I'd heard from him. His voice didn't rise, but there was steel in it. Big ones don't care about paper. I watched the captain weigh his pride against the warning. For a moment I thought he would back down. Then he said, "We stay in the trees. No noise. If anything feels wrong, we turn around. I'm not going back with fishermen's tales." He moved on. The rest of us followed, because turning back alone felt worse than pressing forward. My legs grew heavy. Every step felt like signing a promise I didn't want to make. As we neared the rise, the light dimmed, though the canopy hadn't thickened. Clouds must have crossed the sun, but we couldn't see the sky from here. The cold deepened until it raised bumps on my skin. My breath came out in faint white puffs, which shouldn't have been possible in that region at that time of year. We all noticed it. None of us said a word. Our shoulders hunched on their own, our footsteps shortening. The sound hit us as we reached the top. It wasn't the distant call from the night before. It was closer, deeper, with a sharp crack running through it like a branch breaking under too much weight. It came from ahead and to the right behind a line of tall trunks. A second later, something heavy shifted against a tree. Leaves shook. A few drifted down. We froze. The only movement was a thin ribbon of steam trailing from my lips. I didn't dare to wipe it away. My heartbeat thudded louder than the noise had been. "Stay low," the captain whispered. "No sudden moves. We see it first. We fire only if we must." His voice, usually firm, held a rough edge. We eased off the path into thicker cover. Branches scraped against our shirts. The ground felt soft and sponge-like under the litter of old leaves. Every sound felt like a mistake. We moved in a slow arc toward the source of the noise. At the last line of trees, we stopped. Beyond them, the land dipped into another hollow. The center held a clearing with wide, flattened loops, like something massive had rolled there over and over. At the far edge, half in shadow, something shifted. At first, it was only a shape behind the brush. Then it stepped forward. I'd seen sketches in foreign books, creatures long gone, carved in stone far from South America. This thing looked like those drawings made real and breathing. It stood upright, on two powerful legs ending in broad feet with three forward-facing toes. Its body was thick with muscle, skin a dull brown-green mottled with darker patches. A heavy tail swayed behind it. Its torso rose taller than any man. Its head jutted forward on a thick neck, the snout filled with conical teeth that showed when it cracked its jaws open. Two small, dark, forward-set eyes scanned the clearing. It exhaled. Cold vapor rushed from its mouth into the chilled air. Its gaze drifted slowly across the ground, searching as if trying to find the last place it fed. Then it lowered its head toward disturbed soil in the center of the clearing. It sniffed once, stepped, then sniffed again. Each breath turned to faint steam rising into the air before fading. My hands trembled on the rifle. I forced myself to loosen my grip so the barrel wouldn't knock against the stock. Rui's mouth hung open, his lips shaking. He leaned against me without realizing it, his balance gone soft. Matthias clutched his musket with both hands, elbows pinned tight to his ribs. His face was pale, breath quick. Lou tilted his head, studying the creature with the rigid focus of someone who wished he could sketch without making a sound. Even Brother Thomas was motionless, fingertips resting lightly on the wooden cross at his chest, holding it not for fear but for steadiness.
The creature clamped the carcass in its jaws and lifted it like it weighed nothing. Bones cracked wetly as it bit down twice, swallowed, and slowly raised its head. When it turned, my stomach dropped. Its gaze drifted straight toward the trees where we hid. I felt that moment like a tightening rope across my chest, but the creature didn't lock onto us. Its eyes slid past, listening. A faint thud echoed from far behind, Bento shifting one of the canoes. I hadn't realized how far we'd wandered from the river, yet the sound still reached us. The creature angled its head fully toward the river and let out a short grunt. Its tail stiffened. "Don't move," the captain breathed. Something in the clearing shifted. Air that was already cold seemed to steady even more. The creature dropped the remains and stepped toward the sound. Its posture tightened, tense like a hunting dog catching a new scent. But instead of running, it froze again, drawing in shallow, testing breaths. Then another sound came, from our left this time. A branch cracked under weight, close enough that I felt the vibration more than heard it. Not the same creature. Something else was moving through the trees. Urua sensed it first. His head turned a fraction, his hand hovering near the knife at his belt. His eyes narrowed at a shape we could barely see. A soft drag through leaves, another careful step, then silence. The beast in the clearing reacted instantly. It swung its head toward the trees near us, the exact spot where the second sound came from, and let out a low, rumbling call. Muscles bunched across its shoulders, its tail lifted slightly. "Something else is out here," I whispered before I realized I'd spoken. The captain shot me a look, but he didn't deny it. His face had gone pale. The creature stepped closer. The ground trembled softly under its weight, the vibration running through my boots. It sniffed again, louder now, drawing air through its nostrils with a harsh pull. A dry, mineral smell drifted toward us, nothing like rot or blood, more like old stone. Another shift sounded from the left, heavy, deliberate. Whatever was out there moved slowly, confidently, not stalking, not afraid. Leaves shook about 20 paces from us. A bulk of dark gray-brown skin appeared for a split second before vanishing behind trunks. The forest seemed to bow around it. The beast in the clearing gave a deep warning sound and stepped toward the approaching shape. Its stance changed completely, protective, defensive. That unsettled me more than anything. Whatever was coming wasn't prey. The brush parted again, movement steady and sure. "Back," someone whispered. "Quiet." The captain hesitated, torn between pride and fear. Finally, he nodded. We began backing away inch by inch, keeping low. Every step felt dangerously loud. My legs trembled from holding too much tension. Ryu slipped on moss and caught himself on a root. The small thump echoed huge in my ears, but the creatures didn't react. The beast in the clearing growled again, a deep vibration that pressed into my ribs. It stepped forward toward the unseen shape, both giants aware of one another, but not yet clashing. We retreated until the clearing blurred behind the trees. None of us dared turn our backs. Only when the shapes disappeared completely did the captain motion for faster movement. We moved as one, stumbling down the path we'd climbed earlier, checking every shadow. I looked back so many times I lost count, waiting for the ground to tremble again. When we reached the slope above the river, the air warmed. Our breath stopped fogging. The tightness in my chest eased. Familiar forest sounds returned, the buzz of insects, the distant call of birds, fruit thudding somewhere deep within the canopy. The world felt normal again in a way that unsettled me more. Bento waited by the canoes. One look at us and he didn't bother with questions. "We leave now," he said. "Yes," the captain answered, his voice shaking once. Bento pushed the boats into the water. We loaded too fast, fumbling with trembling hands. My notebook slipped into the mud and I snatched it up. Ryu almost tipped a canoe in his haste. Only when we drifted into the current did anyone speak. "What did you see?" Bento asked quietly, eyes forward. "There are beasts in that valley, 2 at least, big enough to push trees aside. They walk on 2 legs. They kill whatever they find, and they're guarding something. We cannot return." I had never heard him say "cannot" before. "We leave this river," Urua said. "Not tomorrow, now." The captain didn't argue. We rounded a bend. The forest looked ordinary, calm, green, harmless. No sign of the hollow, no tracks, no creatures. But I felt them out there, walking paths older than any map, older than any village. I tried not to think about the noise from the left, the one that didn't fear the creature in the clearing. I tried not to imagine how many lived in that valley, but I did. Every rustle of trees brought back the image of the hollow, the carcass, the creature's breath fogging in air that should never have been cold. We paddled hard until the river widened and the sun dropped low. The captain made us continue after dusk. No one argued. The current pulled us faster than before, and our paddles hit the water in quiet, steady strokes. No one spoke. No one looked back for long. Ryu and Matthias sat stiffly at the bow. Every time a branch scraped the hull, they flinched. Lowe held his map case tight against his chest, silent. His cough had not returned. Brother Thomas watched the banks, lips moving with silent prayers he refused to speak aloud. Urua kept his eyes forward, scanning each bend as if expecting worse around every corner. We traveled under a thin strip of starlight above the canopy. My arms burned from paddling, but I dare not ask to stop. At last, the captain allowed us to pull onto a narrow bank where nothing large could hide easily. "We stay together," he said. "No hammocks, no fire. We sleep by the boats." I had never known him to give up a fire even in storms. Tonight he didn't even consider it. We spread our blankets on damp soil and lay with our rifles across our chests. Sleep came in fragments. Once I woke to Ryu breathing hard like he'd escaped a nightmare. Later I heard Matthias muttering. At one point, something rustled in the tree line and I bolted upright, but it was only falling leaves. Every sound felt too loud. Light finally pulled across the river. Thin gray dawn made my lungs relax for the first time in hours. We didn't talk about the night. We pushed the canoes back into the water in silence.
We paddled back into the current and kept going. By midday, we reached the first village we had passed on our way upriver. Smoke drifted from the longhouse hearths. A few children played near the water. Everything looked exactly as it had before. But when the elders caught sight of our faces, their expressions shifted. They traded looks among themselves. The oldest man, his hair streaked with white, stepped forward as we pulled ashore. He studied each of us carefully. His eyes settled on the captain, then on me. "You crossed into the wrong place," he said in Portuguese.
His voice held no accusation, just the calm certainty of someone repeating something long understood. Not everyone who crosses returns. "We're leaving this river now," the captain answered. His tone carried a respect I had never heard from him before. "We won't go back that way again." The elder nodded once. "Good." His gaze lifted to the forest behind us. "Old things wake when the door opens. They walk until it closes again." "What door?" Matthias asked quietly. "The one between this time and another," the elder said. "The forest has many layers. Some are thin, some are thick. When a thin place tears, those who once lived here walk again until it heals." I murmured that I had said something similar before. The elder gave me a brief glance but didn't respond. Instead, he motioned for us to come to the central longhouse. The captain thanked him but declined. All he asked for was water and dried fish for the trip downstream. The villagers brought it without hesitation. As we prepared to leave, the elder approached me directly. He placed his hand on my shoulder. "Do not tell others where the hollow is," he said. "Not all will listen. Some will return. They must not." "I won't," I said. The words felt heavy. His hand tightened once before he stepped back. When we pushed off again, the captain finally eased the pace. He sat a little straighter, not relaxed, but regaining the piece of himself that needed to plan, to lead, to decide what our journey meant. "We have to agree on what we bring back. Not lies, but not a story that sends fools racing into that valley." Rui had out a quiet snort. "Who would go back after what we saw?" "Men with money, men with pride, men who want glory." Silence settled after that. We all knew he was right. As the afternoon wore on, the river widened, the trees thinned, the sky opened above us again. The suffocating weight in the air lifted. Bird calls returned, normal, familiar, comforting. For the first time since entering the tributary, I believed we might actually leave that region behind. Later, while the others rested in a patch of shade, I walked along the bank to clear my head. The forest here looked ordinary. The ground was soft, insects buzzed in waves. Still, everything I looked at carried a shadow of memory. A snapped branch made me think of saplings crushed in the hollow. A set of drag marks in the mud made me stop, only to discover they were from a turtle. I tried to picture the valley as a place on a map, but it resisted. It felt like something out of joint, something that existed only under certain conditions and could vanish just as easily. The thought should have comforted me, but it didn't. If it could vanish, could it also appear somewhere else? By sunset, we reached a broader bend where the river joined a larger channel. Bento steered the canoes toward deeper, calmer water. When night fell, we camped on a wide sandbar. This time, the captain allowed a fire, a small one, just enough for cooking, not enough to cast light far into the trees. We sat close around it. The warmth felt strangely comforting. "Do you think there were more?" Rui asked suddenly. His voice was low but urgent, as if the question had been waiting too long. "Yes," I said. I didn't look up from the flames. "Do you ever leave that hollow?" Matthias asked. "No," I said, "not unless the door opens too wide." The captain looked at me. "How wide was it when we entered?" Urua thought for a moment. "Too wide." No one spoke after that. We slept in shifts. Rui and I took first watch. We sat facing the dark tree line, listening. The night passed with nothing more than insects, frogs, and once the splash of a distant tapir. The normal sounds felt strange in their own way. By dawn, we were moving again. The farther we traveled, the more normal the air felt, warm, heavy, predictable. When we reached the final stretch before the main river, the captain finally took a deep breath. He removed his hat and held it in his lap. "We'll deliver our maps and findings, but not the route to that place. We'll say the area is too dangerous, unstable ground, impossible terrain, enough to keep people away," Lou added. "That won't stop everyone," I said. "No," the captain agreed, "but it will stop many." As the sun dipped low, we saw smoke from a distant trading post. Relief washed over all of us. It was the first sign of the world we recognized. But even as familiar landmarks returned, part of me kept listening for the crack of a branch or a heavy step in the undergrowth. We reached the post after dark. Light glowed from the windows. Men laughed inside. The normalcy of it unsettled me almost as much as the hollow itself. Everything looked unchanged, but we weren't the same men who had left this river days earlier. We stayed in the traveler's hut. While the others settled in, I sat near the doorway, watching the river. When the fire died low and the night wind rustled the leaves, I thought I heard a faint throaty call far down the channel. I told myself it was just the wind, but I didn't sleep for a long time. Morning came, and everything looked ordinary again. Birds called, traders loaded goods, canoes clattered against the docks. We joined the current heading back toward the main town. I sealed my notebook and promised myself I'd only write details that wouldn't lead anyone back to that hollow. But the memory of the creature standing over the carcass stayed sharp, its breath, its stance, the way its weight shifted. And the other shape in the trees lingered in my mind. We never spoke of that second figure again, but I knew it had seen us. I knew it had waited. And somewhere deep in that quiet valley, I feared it still was. We continued downstream for several days, passing villages and river camps that grew more familiar. Slowly, the fear that had hung over us loosened. By the time we reached the broader waters where the river opened into a wide plain, the others had begun to speak again, not of the hollow or its creatures, but of simple things: food, weather, the condition of the boats. Rui complained about his blistered hands. Matthias joked about the dried fish. Bento hummed quietly as he steered around floating logs. Their voices sounded strange, but at least they were voices. The captain grew more withdrawn. He watched the horizon, the banks, the sky. I could see him replaying every moment, examining it like a man testing an old wound. He asked me again and again to read notes back to him, not because he'd forgotten, but because he wanted the written record to match his memory. After one reading, he said, "If this ever reaches scholars, it will haunt them for years." Then he fell quiet again. We stopped at a small riverside mission on the 6th day. The priest there, thin and gentle, welcomed us. He seemed to notice the heaviness in our posture and asked if we needed confession. Brother Thomas thanked him but declined. That night, I watched from my hammock as he spoke quietly with the priest. Their voices were too low to hear. When he returned, there was no hint of relief in his expression. We left before sunrise. The sky was clear, birds flew low across the water. The forest looked unchanged, yet every snapped branch tightened something inside me. None of us had returned to who we were. On one quiet afternoon, while the others rested, I sat in the center of the canoe, intending to write the events of our return, but my mind kept circling back to one question. Why had the air in the hollow been cold? The creatures explained many things: the tracks, the torn carcasses, the silence, but not the cold. Valleys in this climate didn't grow cold enough to show breath. Urua had spoken of layers of time in thin places. I had dismissed it at first. But the cold stayed with me. It stayed more strongly than anything else.
I closed my notebook. I didn't want any of those thoughts written down where someone might read them later. Some ideas are better left inside the mind. By the time we reached Barem, the season had turned again. Rain threatened the horizon. Down by the riverfront, merchants shouted prices, crates slammed onto the docks, and the air carried the sharp mix of tar and fish. Everything felt grounded here, real, solid, familiar. We tied up the canoes at the same dock we'd left from. Men walked past without giving us a glance. For a moment, I caught myself staring at the crowds and wondering how many of them would ever believe what lived deep in the forest upstream. How many would laugh? How many would try to go looking for it? As we unloaded our gear, the captain called us together. His voice was steady.
"We write separate accounts," he said. "His for the ministry, ours for ourselves, but none of us would mention the hollow's location." Rui frowned. "We're leaving things out. That's still lying." The captain shook his head. "We're preventing something worse," he said. "If others head in there with more men, more weapons, more ambition, they might not come back. Or worse, they might bring something out." That last thought chilled me. Not because I believed it was likely, but because it came from him, a man who never entertained superstition. We all agreed. Later that evening, after we'd been paid and dismissed, I wandered the streets alone. Lanterns glowed along the port. The night air was warm and familiar. I tried to anchor myself in the ordinary world, the taste of fried manioc from a street stand, sailors arguing over cards, the rough laughter of drunk traders, but none of it could wash away the memory of the hollow. I walked until I reached the edge of town near a small chapel. I sat on the steps and listened to the river in the distance. It sounded gentle here, almost content. And for the first time since we'd fled the valley, I let myself think about the moment we first saw the creature completely. The way its posture shifted when it sensed the other presence, alert, guarded, like two giants moving through a place that belonged to neither of them. That memory refused to leave me. Weeks passed and the expedition came apart. Rui and Matthias took a job far upriver, nowhere near the tributary we'd explored. Bento stayed around Barem, working boats. Lo landed in the hospital with a fever and spent months recovering. The captain filed a stripped-down report mentioning oversized tracks, unstable terrain, and signs of large predators. Nothing more. Brother Tomas spent most of his time at the mission. He visited each of us once, never asking about the valley. Instead, he asked how we slept, whether we felt uneasy, if we'd heard anything strange. His questions were careful. When I told him my sleep was rough but improving, he nodded with a subtle relief. You had disappeared without a word. One morning he was simply gone, and people near the docks said he'd taken a canoe east toward his home. I didn't expect to see him again. Life kept moving. The nights got easier. The hollow slipped from my immediate thoughts, though never fully faded. Sometimes I woke from dreams of ferns bending under invisible weight, or heard in my mind the deep grunt of the creature in the clearing. But those feelings softened. They shifted from threats into memories. Months passed. Travelers came and went. New expeditions formed. Merchants swapped stories about strange things they heard from far upriver. Just rumors, nothing solid. No one mentioned cold air. No one mentioned upright walkers. No one mentioned a hollow. I went back to clerking for a river merchant, ledger work, counting crates, managing shipments. The routine steadied me. Life fell back into place. Then one evening, with the sun turning the river red and me locking the warehouse for the night, something small happened, barely worth noticing. A breeze drifted down from upriver, a cool breeze, colder than it should have been for that season. It brushed across my arms, raising goosebumps instantly. Nobody else reacted. Dock workers kept moving cargo. Boatmen yelled for ropes. The city carried on, unaware. I stood still, listening. The breeze faded, warmth returned. But for that one moment, the air felt wrong. A memory hit me hard, the way our breath had clouded in the hollow, that unnatural chill sticking to our skin. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the river looked normal again, quiet, wide, harmless. I breathed slow. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe it was just a draft from a storm upriver. That's what I told myself as I walked home. But I knew what I felt. The forest keeps its secrets. The hollow is far away, the creatures even further. Yet sometimes, when the wind shifts in just the wrong way, I remember the elders' words. Old things wake when the door opens, and I can't help wondering if the door ever truly closed.